Can you hear me now?
Well,
That's all it took was Maz doing his Mike O'Hara to get
turn him up there,
get the
Fish.
Dean on. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing fine. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
We
hear
can.
you,
We
man.
can. Perfect timing. Tom Masway was about to start putting words in your mouth.
He's good for that. I thought maybe you were trying to get rid of him.
Hey, Mo, give us
Hey, listen,
Go ahead.
I'd like to ask Darren one thing first. We're talking about the Lions and the new regime and having fun. And I mean this seriously. This is not a wisecrack or anything. You played for Scotty Bowman. How much fun was that? Or did he have such a reputation when he came in and you knew you had your best chance of winning that that's all that mattered? Because I've heard, different things about Scotty. He could be a tough guy to play for. So did you have fun or did you just win and that was what was fun?
No, we had a blast. See, what Scotty made it was us against him. But the thing is, when he did that, but we all knew that he liked to collect Stanley Cup rings, so it was all for the team. And the way that he made us accountable for each other, right? Where he would be the bad guy or whatever. But we had so much fun. Dude, he let us take our paintball guns on the road. We'd play paintball on the road.
Fun.
Oh, yeah, we'd golf. He'd make sure before playoffs. I think what he really taught us is that it's not about the fun, it's about the work. And he said, and it was more or less that, you guys got to do it together. It's take himself out is more the psychology. So there's a combination, right? Because the fun, when you win, breeds more fun and more rewards. Just sort of like your kids, whether it's, maybe their grades and you take them on a trip to Disney World, using that as an example. So Scotty, it was all psychology in building that around. And I look to the Lions like they're in, if this is the Scotty era, then they're in the 92, 93 figuring it out. But I guess they're a little bit ahead because he's not bringing in a whole new guys. He's working with what he had to get rid of some, bring some other ones in. But no, the fun is important as long as it's, calculated, I guess to say, and it's not just loosey-goosey. So there's a purpose.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I wondered about that. Yeah, that's a good point by you. I like that.
Yeah. You realize that as you get older that you're into it. But the thing is, we were all accountable for each other. And he always made that no matter what the things that he did. And that's why you look at guys that are just going to play for this Lions team and they draft, and I call it the pit, being in there, and these guys that like to be in the pit. You got to like that. To me, that's where it starts. It starts with attitude. So with the first round, did you like what this new regime of Brad Holmes has done?
Yeah, absolutely. What I'm going to start with Penei Sewell. And maybe I said this last week. I went back and forth on him. Every mock draft I did 4 of them. That's what I do every year for DetroitLions.com. In all 4 of those drafts, and I'll be honest, I tried to figure out in my mock draft for him to be there with the 7th pick for the Detroit Lions. But in most of them, and I think this was in my final one too, in most of them, I just couldn't get him past Cincinnati. And so I had I think I had one mock draft when I had Sewell going to the Lions. But in my final one, I was convinced, maybe convinced by a narrow margin, 51-49, that the Bengals would do the right thing and draft Sewell, and then the Lions would get probably Rashawn. What's his name? Rashawn Slater. I'm sorry.
No,
I've got a million.
You
I've
got
all
a
my
million
notes
names
here.
in there, bro. Since '77, that's a lot of years for the kids at home.
But I've only got 500,000 brain wrinkles, so we're done there. But we ended up with Rashawn Slater, who's a really good player, and some people think he might be better than Sewell. Not really. There's a minority group there. But to me, this was the Lions' dream pick. This was the Lions' reality pick. No, not that they would fold to their tent and go home if they didn't get him, because there are other good players there. But this guy fit the Detroit Lions in every way you can. In fact, I just got off the line about 20 minutes ago with Lomas Brown talking about Penei Sewell. Lomas played 18 years in the NFL, 11 with the Lions. He knows an offensive lineman when he sees him. He just raves about this kid.
Mike, in your column that you released today on DetroitLions.com, it was titled "What We Learned from the 2021 NFL Draft." Aside from the fact that the Lions wanted to draft everybody with the most difficult names to pronounce, what can you say we learned from this draft?
when you mention those names, I mean, this is worse than the breathalyzer.
I mean, really, though, you know what?
I
That's
can
what they
attest.
should start doing.
I can attest.
That is, you're so silly.
Well, you're
D-Mac.
lucky you don't really have to say their names. You just have to.
You just have to
write them up.
You just have
Poor
to know
Dan
how to
Miller.
spell them.
Yeah, poor Dan Miller. Look, just take me to the morning coffee, okay? We'll skip all this other stuff. But, I think what I looked for, and Pilar, I appreciate you bringing that up, what I looked for was the value. And there's a guy, Dane Brugler, who writes for The Athletic. That's really a terrific website that does some great work in every sport, but I'm more interested in the football stuff. And full disclosure, I have a paid subscription to it. I don't get a freebie, so I'm not giving them publicity. I'm just using them for research. And the first 5 players that they drafted, he had a higher rating on them than the Detroit Lions draft position. In other words, he had Sewell rated 5th. The Lions took him 7th. So in other words, they weren't reaching for players. That includes the defensive lineman, Levi Onwuzurike, if I got that pronounced right. The cornerback, who I think is going to be number 23.
Onwuzurike, no. Say it.
Onwuzurike.
Onwuzurike. Good job.
Tommy, just record it and play it.
I will.
Right, exactly.
I screwed it up already 3 times. Don't worry about it.
You know what? I feel like it's going to be. Sorry, go on.
No, go ahead. No, but you can go down the line with their first 5 guys. The wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown from Southern Cal. Just a terrific ball player, wide receiver. Some of these guys, they got like a round and a half after. In other words, in the 4th round, when they are rated to go at the top of the 2nd round or the bottom of the 2nd round. So, in other words, they weren't reaching to get players for need; they were getting players they needed, but they had good value for them. And I thought that was extremely important, that they're really getting high quality players at the positions that they projected where they needed them.
Mike O'Hara joins us, DetroitLions.com. Here's an easy name for you, Mo, and I like this pick. It's Derek Barnes, linebacker, Purdue. They traded up 40 spots to get him from the Browns. They gave him next year's 4th-round pick. And this kid looks like the real deal. Matter of fact, they say he's the highest drafted linebacker from Purdue since Cliff Averill.
Cliff Averill, 3rd-round draft pick in 2008. I absolutely loved him, and I loved him as a guy, too. He's just,
Me too.
Just a terrific ball player. He had the fastest 40 time of any defensive end in the draft. The Lions converted him to an outside linebacker. Combination outside linebacker, defensive end. Moved on, made a couple of Pro Bowls, won a Super Bowl with the Seattle Seahawks, and he was a terrific player here in Detroit. Just as good with Seattle. His career ended maybe a year or 2 early because of a neck injury. Now, I don't know if Derek Barnes is going to be the next Cliff Averill, because Cliff was special. He really was. He averaged 10 sacks a year, I think, for his first 5 years in the National Football League. And the National Football League, that's hard to do. It's hard to be that consistent. The thing that's attractive to the Detroit Lions about Derek Barnes is he played 2 years as a rush. I call it like a rush defensive end, maybe a 3-4 end as a rush defensive end, and then played inside middle linebacker his last year at Purdue, and was just as terrific in that spot. I would not be surprised if this 4th or 5th round draft pick became an opening day starter, a plug and play starter from day one, because he's a high character kid, and you'll like this, high character and nasty on the field.
Love it.
What more do you want?
Well, that's the whole thing, too. To Mike O'Hara from DetroitLions.com. Check out his article he just released this Monday. And the one thing is I look at all these guys that we drafted, and it's attitude, and not in a negative way, in a positive way, that these guys are all in the pit, football players, whether it's wide receiver, Brown, to the running back, to all the linemen. What's next for the Lions? Where do they go from here? I know Mads had mentioned the scheduling comes out on the 12th to see who we play on for Thanksgiving and stuff. But what does Brad Holmes and his group do between now in the next month or so, or their next move? Is it wide receiver free agents? Is it, what do you expect from them?
Well, I think what you'll try to do, and right now, I think the next thing right now is that they're signing the undrafted free agents. And look, you can pad out your roster with guys who weren't drafted. This was a tough year for executives around the National Football League, for evaluators and general managers making the picks, because there was no combine like there was last year, so not all the players got the medical evaluations in Indianapolis like you do. And so I think there was you were kind of like hoping you had it right for maybe 40% of the 259 players who were drafted, and I think that caused maybe some uncertainty in the bottom half of the draft. But the bottom line is you got your picks, and now you've got to work with them no matter what. But I think you'll see, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 undrafted free agents, and look, some of those guys they stick. They become role players, and maybe work themselves into starting positions. And we've seen that over the years. I mean, I'll go back right around the 2000 season, 2001. A local kid, Ron Rice from University of Detroit High School in Eastern Michigan. Look, he was on the way, undrafted, signed as an undrafted free agent. He was on his way to being a Pro Bowl safety when he hurt his neck and ended his career. But you can really there's value in there too. And the thing is, you sign him, you've got him for 4 years, just like your draft picks.
And is it going to be as big a practice squad this year, Mo, as going forward? Because last year they expanded the rosters. Do you see more of that coming up this season?
I'd like to see that. I think they expanded it from 10 to 12 or 13,
yeah.
And they also changed the rules. It could be, look, there were grandfathers on the practice squad. Look, when they first started out, it was 5 guys at $1,000 a week, and then now they're getting, I think it's like $8,500 or something like that. So they really realized the value of it, and the Players Associations negotiated it in their behalf. So. Look, they're not just getting these guys to run up and down the field and simulate the offense against the defense and vice versa. They really are finding players who can end up on the 53-player roster and end up really playing key roles.
Hey, we got to get your grade, of course. Pete Prisco, CBS, B+. Vinny Eiler, Sporting News, A-. Mel Kiper, B. You can go on and on and on. It looks like they're like a solid B+ with the national experts. What is the Mo Hara, Dean of Detroit beat writers, grade for the Lions?
Well, when it comes to grades, guys, full disclosure, I entered Wayne State in 1963 and got my degree in 1995. So what the heck do I know about grades?
Hey, it took you a while, but you got it.
Slow and steady wins the race there, Mo. Slow and steady wins the race. I like it.
Yeah, just like that Charlie horse on Saturday. God, I thought I had it.
Hey, Mac hit the trifecta, by the way.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes,
if
he
you
did.
listen, I'm going to play it later in the show, but I told everybody that if I keyed the 9 comes in first, second, or third, we will cash in. I had the 1, 7, 8, 14, 15.
I had the winner, but
With the
I didn't
9.
win as much as Mac did.
Gave you the 9 out on the show. I can't do anything else, guys.
What can I tell you?
Key of the 9.
Mac, I was going to ask for half, but I'll settle for a third. Okay, that's the kind of guy I am.
Well, that's, because I got to pay you to be in the band, so you're good. That's what do you think? That just gives me more funds to put in the Dean Mike O'Hara, his 6-member of Grinder pool. So what do you think I'm doing this for, bud?
I think I might just stick to playing the jukebox. My favorite instrument.
That's all right. I got to get a lot of quarters for that.
Yeah, in terms of the grade, I think I give him a good solid B+. I mean, not an A, because I don't think you've got to have like a playmaker. I think to be an A, like a Barry or somebody like that, just who can change the game with one play, 1 or 2 plays. And I don't think they have that. Really, you get those players more on offense than you do on defense. And until proven otherwise, they also don't have the big time pass rusher out of this group. But we'll see. That could develop. But first of all, they hit the positions where they needed them. Offensive tackle, who now completes that offensive line. The only issue now, who plays right guard, but with the 4 players that they know where they're going to play, plus add the right guard, I think it's going to be, like I said before, a really good offensive line to a top 3 or top 5 unit, and it's going to get better because they're all young and they're going to start playing together, and it's sort of like just a 5-man band and never miss a note. And so that's what I'd say. A good solid, B+, but nothing higher than that. And that's good. It really is good because they've set themselves up to build on the foundation that they put in place in this draft.
Mike, real quick before you get to band practice, this is easy from the producer booth. I wanted to ask, because we signed some undrafted free agents already, are there any guys in this list that you think we should keep an eye out for or be an early fan of for the Detroit Lions?
Well, you're going to have to hold your list up because I can't see it over the telephone.
Well, so he's got Jonathan Adams Jr. from Arkansas State. That's a wide receiver. Another
Wide receiver. I hear good things about him. I hear he's a big guy who can sort of maybe another Quintez Cephas type player.
Good name though.
Faster?
yes.
Yeah.
Another
Faster.
tough name, wide receiver Sage Surratt,
Ooh, I like
From
him.
Wake Forest.
Wake Forest.
They got like
Oh,
4
yeah,
receivers.
No, we got two
Well,
receivers.
Yeah, you need those players first of all. Always somebody comes out in camp, an unknown guy, and he looks great, and then all of a sudden he disappears and he never plays in the league. But those guys will get their chance. Surratt, I've heard about. Kind of looked at him a little bit when I was making my mock drafts and all that, because he's kind of you look at one guy and then he's got teammates and you kind of look at them a little bit. But not a guy I really study, so I don't have a really strong opinion. But certainly a known player.
Yeah, I wish that they got two wide receivers, one tight end, Brock Wright out of Notre Dame, 2 more running backs. I feel like enough with the running backs. I wish that they would have gone a little bit heavier with the wide receivers in this and hope that 2 of these guys would have really stuck.
Well, they could. Notre Dame usually comes out with tight ends. I used to cover Notre Dame full time back in the day. Remember when Dave Casper, they went from offensive tackle to tight end. Guess where he is now? In the Hall of Fame. So, yeah, they usually come out with some pretty tough kids who play tight end. I'd keep an eye on him. I think they're pretty set. Obviously with T.J. Hawkinson and the guy they signed from New Orleans to be a blocker. So, yeah, there's room in there for a third tight end and maybe even a fourth one. He's the practice squad guy for development.
My favorite Notre Dame tight end, Mo. Can you guess him from the Giants?
Oh, that's stiff.
The great Mark Bavaro.
I'll tell you what, he was as strong and tough as any tight end I've covered. He really, remember that reception he had?
Of course,
I
against
think
the
he ran
Niners.
30 yards.
Yeah.
Yeah, dragging like 3 or 4 guys for 10, 15, 20 yards. Yeah, a powerful player, really was. Career ended way too soon.
Way too soon. He would have been a Hall of Famer if he didn't have a couple of bad breaks there. And that was on Monday Night Football. Mo, thanks a million for sharing some time with us. We appreciate it, and we'll talk to you maybe when the schedule comes out.
All right, sounds good to me, guys. Thanks for
Mike.
having me again.
Thanks, Mike.
Appreciate you.
All right.
Great to have you on.
Mike O'Hara, DetroitLions.com, and of course, longtime Detroit News Lions beat writer. The best.